Reach high, aim high, and obtain. As some of you know, I love my thick, heavy cream, very Greek-like, but without water removal yogurt. And whether it's the SIBO or the Reuteri, in this particular instance it's the SIBO, I love it. I want to make sure that I maintain my cultures once I've built it to the thickness, etc., that I love. And because of that, I says, I need to make sure I have a just in case. Now, you may be wondering why I haven't posted a lot of yogurt videos in regards to different recipes, because I do have recipes for how to use the yogurts and stuff, but sadly we had a power outage that occurred and it messed up my yogurt machine and I didn't know it, and I kept making batch after batch using my good culture to try and get my yogurt back, and it kept failing. And I finally called the company and they went, oh, well, run this test. And I did, and it failed. So they had to send me new yogurt makers. And so that's how come I've not been able to post, is I literally had to rebuild up my yogurt so that I could actually have my standardized yogurt to share my recipes with you guys. So my apologies for the unforeseen circumstances with the yogurt, but I finally have my SIBO that is at a thick consistency, so we can finally start doing some stuff. And one of the things I wanted to do was save outside of the fridge, because any of you that are familiar with yogurt know that yogurt can only go so long in a standard fridge. However, like with a standardized culture, you can freeze it and it delays the processing time a little bit. Plus, it'll help save my culture. I've already measured this silicone container here, and each hole on this particular piece that is food grade silicone holds exactly 2 tablespoons of liquid. So when I fill each one of these, it will be the equivalent of the 2 tablespoons that I would normally need to make 1 batch of my yogurt. In this instance, my SIBO. So that will allow me to put my SIBO in here and then put it in the freezer. Although it looks like with the thickness of the yogurt, not the water, it's actually 1 tablespoon, it looks like, per hole, but that's okay. We're going to save some of these so that if anything happens again, I have some that's outside of the fridge, that's in the freezer, that I know if I were to have another situation, I've at least got some kind of a backup, in addition to what I put in the fridge to start the next batch of culture. And this is just a backup because I want to avoid having happen what happened to me with the power outage and everything again. And I want to help you guys prevent, if anything were to happen, having to start from scratch with your culture like I've had to. And then it's just very much of a waiting game. And this will actually prevent that type of occurrence, or at least reduce the potentiality of it, because now I know what to look for if the yogurt maker goes bad because of a power surge, or in our case it was a power outage, multiple surges because the power kept going in, out, like, what was it, 20 times, Mom? Within a 5-minute period here. So that's how come I'm like, I want to make sure I have my yogurt that at least in some regards can be saved, because when the power goes out, you just basically keep the freezer door closed, and a lot of times it comes back up after a few hours. But at least in this way, we'd have some kind of preservation in place rather than it just being the yogurt and not having options there. So, and this SIBO, as you can see, it's gotten quite thick. This is the one I stirred the other day that was just a little bit watery. Not much, but it still had some liquid aspects to it. And now you can see it's very gelatinous. I mean, look at that. That's how come I said, even though it was a little bit watery, I says, I know, give it just a little bit of time and it'll thicken up. And it has in fact done that. And you can see that from how, see here, it doesn't want to leave I'm flicking my tablespoon and it's not really coming out. See how much is still coated? So that's how come I'm saying I got to batch 4 and it did great. So now what I can do is I can put this in the freezer, let this harden, and then what I'll do is pop them out, put them in parchment paper, wrap it, and then I've already got my bags here ready to go. One is, of course, for my SIBO that I just did, which is the L. reuteri, L. Gasseri, and Bacillus subtilis. And then the L. reuteri, I actually have a little bit of the culture still left in one of my other containers because actually my mom prefers this only at nighttime, while I prefer this all the time. So I'm fulfilling everybody's needs in the household. And this way that we can have both jars, because to do the SIBO, I like to start with my L. reuteri culture that I've already created. So that's how come I'm wanting to have it on its own, because I can use this and then introduce the other cultures if I needed to make and get back to SIBO. But on the positive, I wanted to let you know, come batch 4, it ended up doing it. I just had to give it a little bit of time in the fridge to, like I said, thicken up, and then it's good now. So we'll freeze this and show you next steps. They finally finished.
Wow.
Hard as a rock. So we're gonna flip these out. And one thing I do love about silicone is you can just peel. So it makes it a lot easier to get them out. And I'm putting them onto parchment paper or wax paper. I think all of them would work. You can see these certainly hardened up, huh? And this is a SIBO from earlier. In each one is about a tablespoon. Let's see. Oh, one more. I thought I had them all. Okay, so there we go. We've got all of those. And then what I'm going to do, it's not ideal, but I'm going to fold these up as best I can. Put these in and seal this up. And you try and squeeze out all the air, of course. I did pretty good squeezing out the air. Now another thing that you can also do, and I want to show you this as an option, is there are silicone bags. And the only reason I'm not using these food grade silicone pads that I love, because you can really press out the air, as you can see I've done here, is because I can't label them. That's one thing I would like for brands like this. I think this is this is a stasher bag, is if there was like some place where it had like a place where you could insert or, you know, put like a little sticky thing that said that was what was in here. But because I can't do it like this, where I can literally take permanent marker and say, it's my SIBO yogurt, that's the only reason why I'm doing a Ziplock rather than my stasher bag. But if you wanted to, you could do this if you don't have that much in your freezer, but we tend to have a lot of items in our freezer because we like to cook. So it's safer to do something like this with so many cooks in the kitchen so they don't accidentally.
So you might know what it is, but the next person
yes,
may. Yeah.
And I did have that happen, which was another reason why my yogurt starter got reduced, is I did not label it. And I will not name names, but somebody thought it was something else and used it. And everyone was like, this is the best, you know, item ever. And I was like, I went to use my starter. I was like, what happened? This thing was full. And someone was like, oh, I used that. I was like, that wasn't sour cream. That was my reuteri yogurt. No wonder that was a really delicious dish. So that also lets you know that technically you can use my yogurt once you've gotten it thick as a technical replacement sour cream too. So we'll put this in the freezer. And we'll do the same thing for the reuteri, but my reuteri is currently processing in the yogurt maker, so we'll do that one next.